The Russian occupiers are absolutely furious and completely disoriented.
As of right now, at this very moment, unfortunately, the Starlink connection has completely dropped out, and we're left almost entirely without communication.
On the enemy's side, there's massive friendly fire and assault operations have been suspended.
Most likely, the Russian army will have communication problems again. Probably like at the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023.
All because of the shutdown of Elon Musk's Starlink. Back at the beginning of 2024, Ukraine started looking for a solution that would deactivate Russian terminals. And they found one. They proposed it to SpaceX, but it took 2 years for the solution to be implemented. The last straw was the implementation and installation of Starlinks on Russian strike drones, which have been used to attack both military and civilian targets. How did they manage to disable the Russian Starlinks? How big of a loss is this for the occupiers? And will Russia be able to make up for such a huge loss? We'll tell you everything about this and much more in just a very short moment. It became known in early February that the Russian Starlinks had gone dark. The solution turned out to be quite simple to understand. The company simply turned off all non-white-listed stations. Ukrainians, however, need to verify themselves in order to use it. The Ministry of Defense provided instructions on how the military could do this quickly. For civilians, things are a bit more complicated. They need to contact the CNAP, and Russians are even trying to take advantage of this. But we'll get back to that nuance later. As a result, most of the Ukrainian military's Starlinks continue to operate while the Russian ones went dark.
So, what everyone had feared for so long, but secretly hoped wouldn't happen before the end of the special military operation, has happened. Elon Musk flipped the switch and 80% of Starlink terminals on the front went down, and with a high probability on our side, it will soon reach 100%. And only Russian ingenuity might be able to find a way around this.
That clever ingenuity was merely sufficient to plead with subscribers for help.
I am reaching out today to personally ask the subscribers of the VHTO Russian Spring Telegram channel for some much-needed assistance and support. To help us acquire essential communication equipment, specifically specialized radio bridges, as well as repeaters for radios, the so-called tutki. Right now, at this very moment, unfortunately, the Starlink connection has gone down completely, and we are left almost entirely without any form of communication. If you are able to help us in any way, we would be extremely grateful for your kindness and your support.
But this won't actually solve the occupiers' problem. Quite simply because there is nothing that can fully replace Starlink.
The Russian army is highly dependent on the internet, which they have been receiving or had been receiving until recently through Starlink terminals that they were unofficially using in a gray area. And this internet is utilized almost exclusively by them for tactical coordination. Because right now, the most critical weapon systems on the battlefield and the primary means of reconnaissance are drones. And the live footage captured from these drones is absolutely vital for strategic decision-making. Accordingly, this footage needs to be transmitted somehow to headquarters, where coordination is then carried out. That is to say, the commander can instantly view and monitor live video from a large fleet of drones, coordinate complex attacks, seamlessly relay critical information to the infantry, issue direct orders, and rely on real-time up-to-the-minute tactical intelligence.
Without Starlink, everything takes more time and coordination is lost. Moreover, we shouldn't forget that Starlink is also simply a means of communication, both for Ukrainian defenders and for Russian invaders.
Without Starlink, some Russian military personnel will apparently have to use either some kind of standard wired systems or whatever other satellite systems are currently available. But there are a very limited number of those, and they work much worse in the field, and most importantly, Starlink's main advantage was that it was very easy to buy a terminal. Well, of course, it was still bought through various grey market channels at an inflated price, somehow sourced in other countries and then brought in, but the thing is, these devices are sold in large quantities, just right there in retail stores, basically. And buying and using all the other systems is much more difficult.
Plus, again, it all comes down to timing. The shutdown of Starlinks has already dealt a serious blow to the occupiers. Even the minimal advances they had have come to a halt.
There have been a lower number of offensive assault operations. As a direct result of this disruption in troop command, this is a very good sign.
Our sources from the 122nd Motorized Rifle Regiment in the Kupiansk direction and the 1152nd Regiment in the Zaporizhia direction report the same situation. Command and control of the troops is effectively paralyzed. In the occupiers' units, there is an almost complete failure of Starlink terminals. Russian signal operators are in despair. Attempts to deploy backup communication channels are failing one after another. Standard electronic warfare equipment regularly jams even their own radios.
The severe breakdown in communication has not only paralyzed assault operations, but has also triggered widespread friendly fire among the occupiers.
In the Zaporizhia direction, a typical case of friendly fire occurred due to a complete breakdown in communications. Units having no information about each other opened fire on their own troops. As a result, an assault group of 12 people was completely wiped out by their own forces.
The Russians are making intensive efforts to fix the situation. Serhiy Beskresnov, an advisor to the Ukrainian defense minister, reports that occupiers are searching for locals to activate Starlink terminals at administrative service centers for a fee. But here too, the Russians will face failure, and traitors or those looking to make easy money will end up with prison terms.
They would send a representative to the administrative service center to collect the funds, use a fake LLC, carefully dismantle a Starlink terminal from a captured drone, and so on. Don't overdo it. From the very beginning, we considered and anticipated all these options as both risks and ways to counter them. We will block all these Starlinks. We know how to do it. But those who try to make easy money from the enemy will face punishment, and not a small one, but a heavy penalty. This isn't like torching a car and getting away. This is like going to the administrative service center and essentially recording your crime for the court. So my advice to traitors, don't even think about trying.
The Ukrainian military has thought everything through so thoroughly that every day brings new surprises for the occupiers. The detours and routes devised by Russian commanders only lead to the elimination of their subordinates. According to new rumors, Ukraine has gained access to the geolocations of all Starlink terminals in the temporarily occupied territories. Although, who knows, maybe these aren't just rumors.
Attention everyone! Urgently disconnect all Starlink satellite stations from power and move them away from the open sky. The precise geographic coordinates of all inactive devices are currently being collected.
Analysts warn that it's still too early to draw conclusions about how disconnecting Starlinks will affect the occupiers in the long term. However, they still do not offer any optimistic forecasts for the Russian army.
But most likely, the Russian army will face communication problems similar to those at the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023, when Starlink was not yet actively used by them. And accordingly, losses during attacks will increase, coordination will worsen, and the quality of offensive actions will decline. The quality is already very low in the Russian army, but most likely it will become even lower.
Russian officials, it seems, have already accepted the inevitable and have started assuring everyone that nothing terrible has happened. Don't spread panic, they say. We'll just have to send more cannon fodder to the front. And the last point is that the Kremlin isn't even trying to hide this anymore.
Now these so-called bloggers and so-called war correspondents have started to stir up panic. They say, the Americans have cut off our Starlinks, that's it. Now the front will collapse. But that's not going to happen. Marshal Zhukov fought without Starlinks, using human resources, and made it all the way to Berlin. In the same way, we must mobilize everyone to the maximum. Men, students, everyone, and finish off Ukraine.
What do you think? Will the occupiers be able to make up for the loss of Starlinks? Or maybe they will find a way to use Elon Musk's innovative technology? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and be sure to subscribe to our Arsenal channel, so you don't miss any of the most interesting and exciting new updates coming your way.